Hello and welcome to Magnet Galleries. I'm Suzanne Silver. I'm one of the directors of Magnet. Magnet's a not-for-profit photography centre. We aim to give photographers the opportunity to show their work and for members of the public to come and see a variety of photography, both documentary and fine art. We are a registered charity and raise funds for many organisations based on photography. Besides this, we offer people the opportunity to have work conserved here, old photographic collections, for example, and we provide printing facilities as well, using a wide variety of fine papers. This exhibition, which I'm going to introduce you to today, is the work of photographer Victor Pugatschew, who is a dedicated and very able amateur photographer. In his professional life, he's an importer of French champagne from the small artisan vineyards of France. And a lot of his photography, as you'll notice in travelling around this exhibition, is based in the Champagne area of France. But he's also got a fine collection of work done here in Victoria in particular, and other parts of Australia. The name of the exhibition is Vintage, for obvious reasons, but also because it's a retrospective of the last 12 years of Victor's work. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to some of the photographs from Vintage by Victor Pugatschew. In this image, Meunier grapes are being pressed at Champagne d'Errazuriz, and it's an extraordinary image, almost abstract, of the light and swirl of the wine as it goes down the wine press. This extraordinary image, Emmanuel Lassagne, winemaker, is disgorging champagne at Champagne Jacques Lassagne. It's such a remarkable image. Victor has captured the moment at which the cork pops and the man instinctively leaps back to avoid the spray going in his eyes. It's just such fun. Many and varied people come to take part in the wine harvest each year in France, and in this photograph Victor portrays a muscle man of extreme dedication who is working in the vineyard in Vertu in the Champagne region. Horses are still used sometimes in the vineyards because they are far less destructive of the soil and of the vines themselves than mechanical harvesting. And so in this photograph, Victor shows that the old methods still work very well, and it's a beautiful, tranquil scene that might have been seen any time these last 500 years. Bucketing the crushed Meunier grapes at Champagne-la-Herte in the Champagne region. It's a very busy time when the grapes are finally brought to the presses, and this photograph shows the amount of effort that it takes to produce a beautiful bottle of bubbly. In the past few years, Victor has several times been a finalist in the Errazuriz Wine Photographer of the Year Awards, an international competition for photography. In this image, taken at Hoddles Creek Vineyards in the Yarra Valley, Victoria, he shows pushing out dried pressed Pinot Noir grapes. It's a remarkable image. It was a finalist but didn't win this year, 2020. But for subtlety and for interest, it's unsurpassable. There are 4 representations of the worker reflected in the tank that he's working in, and the more you look at that image, the more you'll see. It truly is a most remarkable photograph. $5,000 a bottle. This is the famous Krug-owned vineyard at Ambonnay, and probably the most expensive terroir in Champagne. Topping up the barrels at Champagne Benoît Magee in Ambonnay. This shows the dedication and the attention to detail of the winemaker in this important area of winemaking anywhere in the world. Steep vines in Clos des Goisses vineyard in the Champagne area. A lot of the vines are grown on steep slopes, carefully organised for maximum sunshine and correct climatic conditions to produce champagne that is renowned all over the world. Anselm Selos is the master of biodynamic viticulture, one of the most highly regarded winemakers in the Champagne region. And Victor had captured him in a simple but remarkable portrait that shows so much of what this man and his work is all about. This photograph was the 2018 winner of the Pink Lady Errazuriz Wine Photographer of the Year award. It shows Chardonnay being pressed and spinning down the juice drain. It's another extraordinary image, highly dynamic, a lot of movement, and irresistible to look at. Victor enjoys symmetry in much of his landscape work, and in this image he shows a long valley in Ambonnay in the Champagne region, beautifully composed, simple beyond anything, and quite compelling, those lines of the ploughed earth leading up to the four simple trees on the horizon. It's a lovely photograph. Again, we are back at Hoddles Creek Vineyards in the Yarra Valley. This image won the Pink Lady Wine Photographer of the Year award in 2015, and it shows Pinot Noir being pressed at Hoddles Creek. It's an arresting image, it's almost abstract, very powerful. The world is champagne. Probably the most abstract of Victor's images in this exhibition, a complete world of champagne bubbles. What could be more delightful? By contrast with the brilliant colour of most of Victor's work, he's done a series of beautiful black and white images of Paris in all her glory. The first one is Louvre Bicyclist in Paris. Simple, symmetrical, very recognisable and quite compelling. The Eiffel Tower as you may never have seen it before. And by presenting this photograph in black and white, Victor enables you to concentrate on the fine tracery of the wrought iron rather than the colour of the sky or of the plants, and so you see the Eiffel Tower in a very different way. It's really fascinating. Up to Trocadero, beyond the Eiffel Tower, the steps rise up to the Trocadero, and with an image of the greatest simplicity, a lone climber is ascending the stairs, making for a most compelling image. Place du Palais Royal, the wonderful architecture of Paris doesn't need colour to describe it. It's beautifully presented in this black and white image also. Parisian necessities, the coffee, the cigarette, the glass of water. Nothing more Parisian than that simple image of someone in a sidewalk cafe. Don't we wish we were there? Paris in evening light, taken from the Montparnasse Tower. the most beautiful image in the exhibition in some ways. This encapsulates the glory of everybody's favourite city. Foaming, fermenting Chardonnay at Bindi Vineyards, Gisborne. We're back in Australia, the wine is coming, the barrel's producing, and we can't wait to drink it. Harvest time at Champagne Pierre Guimonet. The worker in this vineyard is bringing home the crates of the cut grapes. They're going to be transformed. Last of all, in the vintage exhibition, two extraordinary photographs of trees. One in France, one in Australia. The Faux de Verzy forest in the Champagne region of France is famous for its strange, twisted, gnarled trees. By contrast, the Gardens Creek in the Bay of Fires, Tasmania, the light of late evening shines on the still, straight trees along the water's edge. Yellow Horizons in Dimboola, Victoria. The simplicity of the tree contrasts with the dynamic sky and the brilliance of the yellow field. Raindrops on a Paris window. In this really clever photograph, Victor has made the drops of rain into the lenses that show you the image of the house across the road. The backdrop is the house itself, well out of focus, making for a dynamic contrast between the two. Spotswood Vision was photographed in 2010 and is a little time capsule showing what's happened to Melbourne in the last 10 years. The skyline is half as busy as it is nowadays, and the whole array of sheds in the foreground has totally disappeared. This is a wonderful vintage image of the old western suburbs. An aerial view of the rolling Champagne landscape. Victor enjoys making interesting geometric observations of his landscape photographs, and this one is no exception. It's interesting because of the shadows of the clouds on the field in the background and the contrast between the dark green and the brilliant yellow. These next two photographs are wildly differing views of the famous Block Arcade in Melbourne. The first, a 360-degree panorama looking down from the roof of the central cupola of the Block Arcade, and the second, a panorama of the same image laid out in Magnet projection style. The panorama was the winner of the Photonet Open Prize for Photography in 2014. Victor has used the same Magnet projection to show the State Library reading room spread out as a double panorama. He's also taken 360-degree panoramas, one looking down from the roof of the central reading room, the other looking up from the floor. The three images side by side make a breathtaking collection of views of one of Melbourne's most iconic interiors. Early morning at Lake Daylesford. Taken a number of years ago, this beautiful, dreamy, tranquil image shows the old tea rooms on the edge of Lake Daylesford, now long passed into history. This is the first canvas print that Victor ever made. In complete contrast with the dreamy quality of Lake Daylesford, lily pads on the pond at Chateau de Pommard shows a far more dynamic view of water. It's a beautiful and arresting image. Echoing the lily pads, drops on long grass in Alphington, Victoria, is a close-up of simple raindrops, green leaves, nothing more, and utterly interesting. This is the Museum of Natural History in Paris. Besides being a glorious piece of architecture of the 19th century, it's full of the playfulness of French sensibility, with the animals parading 2 by 2. You'd never see that in an Anglo-Saxon museum. Starlings are naturally in abundance in the Champagne region during the vintage months of the year. Victor has chosen to show them as a simple black and white image, again almost abstract, but very redolent of the place and the time of year. Beauty and peace and tranquility, late night stars at Chouilly in the Champagne region, a lovely image of the stars, the Milky Way, the lights of far-off cities, and one simple little building to pinpoint everything.